What's up, fam? Welcome back to another Pep Wednesday where I put a little pep in your step for your midweek blues. This week, we're talking about confidence. Now, as creatives, a lot of us suffer from a lack of confidence. We feel insecure both about ourselves and our work. But today, I want to talk about how we can become confident. You see, often we assume that confidence is something that we're born with, but confidence is in fact something that can be learned. It's a lot like a muscle that can be built over time and then it will become a memory. For instance, growing up, I was a very introverted child. I found it hard to articulate my thoughts, and that is why I turned to drawing and writing as a form to express myself. But today I'm able to stand in front of you with a camera pointed at me and talk to you guys with confidence. So I want to kickstart the talk with a wonderful quote from James Victory. He says, "Confidence comes from a mindset of abundance and wealth and gives us the freedom to ask for help, to ask for more, and to ask for what we deserve." Have you ever had a conversation that goes something like this? "Oh wow, her work looks amazing." "Yeah, it does, and yours will never look like that." "I think I've progressed a lot over the last few months." "Sure, you should call a snail's pace progress. It's only been like a decade, and those 20-somethings are TikToking their way to success while you are still slogging." "But you are not good at business. Just face the facts. You're going nowhere." Now, if you pay particular attention to the words being used in this conversation, and in similar conversations that you might have with yourself, you will find that often the words of the critic aren't necessarily your own voice. It may in fact be the voice of someone close to you, a parent, a sibling, or guardian, a teacher, somebody who has influenced you in your life. Now, their voice has subconsciously embedded itself into your mind, and you have allowed it to become the loud critic voice in your head. The first step is to become self-aware of whose voice that is. Though they might not have intended to hurt you with their words, often their words have created a mental block for yourself. By acknowledging the words, you can now let it go and you have the ability to move forward. For me personally, that voice is the voice of my dad. I love my dad and we have a close relationship. But when I was in my early 20s, I took some money that I had and I invested it in doing a run of t-shirts. Now that endeavor failed and it took me a long time to get rid of all that stock that I had. I just ended up giving a lot of it away as gifts. But because of that experience, my dad had the assumption that I am bad at business. And so he told me that you're bad at business. And sure, as a 20-something, I probably was. But that created a mental block for me. Growing up, as I've gotten older, as I've gained more experience, I still tried to avoid the subject of business and felt like I wasn't right for it. But when I relooked at that conversation and the context of it and went back to the drawing board with it, I had this realization, that was a definition of who I was then. That doesn't necessarily apply to me now because I've learned so much, I've gained new experiences, and I went back and I started to learn more about business, learn how to thrive, learn how to market. These things can be learned. And that inner critic within me was stopping me from moving forward and from thriving in my abilities. When I did a deep dive of business, I found that a majority of the best businesses out there, or the most successful businesses out there, were run by creative people. And the reason why they're successful is creatives are problem solvers. They have the ability to pivot, they're flexible, They can think outside the box non-linearly, and that allows them to present a company and a business that's much more strategic and can have a larger impact. So for me, having that realization, I then realized me as a creative, I was perfectly positioned for business. In fact, business and creativity go hand in hand. So what felt like a very negative thing at first, being creative and business on the other side, has now been flipped to a positive. So that confidence came from a sense of self-awareness, of learning of my value as a creative. If you don't first value yourself and your work, nobody else can do the same. Because no matter what they say, you will only see the critical side of it. The things that made you weird as a kid are the source of your character and creative power. Often we're afraid to stand out in a crowd, and this comes from a place of fear. Because all throughout school, all throughout our lives, we're being told consistently to fit a model that is another cog in the giant machine of life. I love how Chris Do phrases this. He says, normal equals average, and nobody wants to be average. I know I don't want to be average. And so by embracing who I am, embracing my uniqueness and the value of my uniqueness and the value of the experience I have to share, that builds my own confidence. So you might be asking yourself, how do I do this? How do I build confidence? How do I fall in love with my own flaws? How do I own them? Well, for me, this is the process that worked. I began by asking myself a few questions. What makes me tick? So what are the things that I really love? What are the things I'm super passionate about? And for me personally, that's storytelling. It's encouraging other people. It's old school rap. It's adventure sports. It's comic books. It's tattoos. These are the things that get me excited. Sneakers. So create that list for yourself. Then look at your own appearance. What do I look like? Okay. And for me, as a lot of you know, I earned the moniker Ashwin Chacko, which is now my brand, from when I was in high school, and I wore really quirky clothes, and that is how people started calling me Ashwin Chacko. So I started owning that identity, the kid who wears wacko clothes, who is wacko, who's playful, who embraces that fact about themselves. I was made fun of for my skin when I was younger because I have a darker complexion, but now I'm proud of it and I'm happy with it. If you look closely, well, you don't have to look that closely. I have a massive gap in my teeth. But that's what makes my smile unique. I don't want that perfect white smile that everybody else has. Then that would be everybody else. I love my teeth and I love the gap. It's a part of who I am. Once you've answered those facts about your own physical traits, then you look at what is your history or what is your ethnicity. For myself, as an Indian, I grew up in India, I grew up specifically in the foothills of the Himalayas in an international boarding school. And because I grew up in an international audience, I, in the end, ended up being a third culture kid. So not really from either culture, somewhere in between. This has then altered my ability to adapt. It's made me much more flexible. It's made me much more understanding of other people's cultures. It also allows me to draw from these different cultures in an authentic way because that's what I've experienced. And that's how I can relate to lots of different people. Once you identify those facts about your history, then ask yourself, what are my skills? So for me, illustration, design, lettering, typography, storytelling, teaching. These are things that I have skills with. And then last is actually compiling all of these to form a better understanding of who you are. So combining the quirky clothes with my skills, with what I love, and packaging it up as Wacko Chacko, the guy you know. Once you've done that, you start to understand who you are, and now you can start to fall in love with those facts and begin to share that person with the people around you. The real question is, are you the hero of your story, or have you been living somebody else's life? If you have, now is the opportunity to change that. Get to know yourself. And remember, you are valuable just the way you are. Your uniqueness is what will draw people to you. Own it. Be confident. And get out there. That's it for this week. I hope you found this of value. If you did, please do hit that like button and do subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think. I'll see you all next week.